What does the Paris Air Show, being the biggest of its kind, what does it mean for the industry, military, defense and civil aviation?
For me personally, but as much as for the industry as a whole, it is a point of reconnection. We meet once a year, once in London, once in Paris, and this is the time to reconnect with the industry.
Is this week, the air show, is it about business, is it about the industry, or is it about something else?
For me, it is all, and it is about connecting with this is a very small community, it's an ecosystem. There is only 2 OEMs, there's probably 5,000 suppliers, and we have 5 billion of passengers every year. That's what comes here together every day.
So a small industry, but obviously with enormous impact. One of those impacts we saw in India last Thursday, a devastating crash. What kind of impact does that have on the industry?
I mean, first of all, this is an awful tragedy, and thoughts and prayers go with the victims and the families. I mean, let's be clear, this is not nice and not good for anyone. For me, this is a reminder that this industry is built on trust. It is built on consumers having trust in flying safely on an aircraft. And the way we translate that at Gardner is we need to do just impeccable quality products every time. We cannot allow to have scratches on our part. Does it matter? It does, but because there could be corrosion. Does it matter if the traceability is not full? It does, because we want to check in case there's something happens. It is a call for duty that we need to have the stringent quality requirements possible.
The investigation, of course, is continuing in India to that crash, but it surely does impact passengers' confidence, doesn't it?
I mean, again, it is a tragedy, but let's remind that this is an impeccable, safe aircraft. It's the first time that there has been a deadly crash. We don't understand why. There are thousands of aircraft, thousands of 787 flying and landing every day. It might be having a bad feeling, and again, it's a tragedy for everyone there, but it doesn't change the fundamentals of this industry that are built on quality and safety integrity.
When you come to a big international event like this one in Paris, what are you looking for? Contacts, new businesses, new manufacturing bases? What takes precedence for you?
For us, it is getting contact with the customers again. Gardner Aerospace is a company that delivers to commercial aircraft. So our customers are typically Airbus, but also tier ones, and they're all here. And it's good to see them all.
And in terms of new inventions now, the way technology is developing, what do you see and what excites you?
I'm very much excited about Industry 4.0, digitalization and AI. I think it really will drive the way when we are capable of measuring these manufacturing points, it will really allow us to be far more efficient in producing. This industry is still fairly young, and automation and all that is far behind than what you would know from automotive. Here, I think I see a point. And then obviously there is an excitement on. There have been announcements of that Airbus is thinking about a new generation of single-aisle aircraft. Yeah, they're probably only in the 2030s, we understand that, but the technologies that needs to be for this aircraft, this is what we want to prepare for.
Well, let's pick up on those two things then. Automation, right? We can see how that's happened with cars and with electric vehicles. How do you see that happening more and more in aviation?
I mean, I'm now for more than 20 years in this industry, and there was always the saying, it is too expensive to invest into automation because volumes are still fairly small. I mean, in total there are 1,000 aircraft produced a year, there are millions of cars produced. So the business case is a different one. However, with technology becoming cheaper, there is probably a case where we can make more automated. And automation is not only an answer to efficiency, automation is also an answer to access to resources. So there is, we are all fighting for labor, we are all fighting getting the right resources. There, automation helps. And it is also an answer to just having more stringent quality in the product itself. Normally, the mistake is the human, and the check is the human, so automation is an answer to that.
And is that why you also mention artificial intelligence? Because AI is having such a huge impact in just about every field where humans are involved.
Correct, and it will help us to measure far more data points. An aircraft is an incredible complex product. Broken it down to what we do, even the products we do are terribly complex. If we measure that, if we measure more data points, if we have a more stringent view on that, this will allow us to understand better and to manage better.
But surely, I thought, aircraft engineers is such a special role, a well-paid jobs. Are we talking about a radical change in the employment of these massive aircraft factories we see in North America and in Europe?
Being an aircraft engineer myself, I'm not so sure it's well paid, but joke aside. No, the thing is, it will help to manipulate large amount of data far quicker. That was what is growth about. If you deliver faster, more, better, everybody benefits of that.
Where do you see growth now in terms of aircraft and civilian aircraft in the world? Is it inevitably India and China?
It is. I mean, there is a bit of a logic, which is passenger and freight transport is a direct function of GDP growth. And the growth areas are Asia. It's not only China and India, these are the big ones, but it is where there is more growth than usual one. So this is the first driver. And with an increasing middle class, there will be just more passenger in Asia, and that's where it is.
The growth, some experts say, is almost up to 40%, which is, for somebody like me outside of engineering, seems almost unbelievable in the next few decades.
I think it was demonstrated in the past. There is a huge amount of aircraft that need to be replaced. These are old aircraft that are less fuel efficient, that require a level of upgrading and to make customers and passengers fly safely, fly less CO2 consumption. So that's all what it is about. The growth is only going to explode.
You used to work with Airbus, one of the two huge manufacturers in the world. Airbus is obviously developing and expanding in China. They have one production line, they're putting in a second one before the end, possibly of this year. Do you think that Airbus is in a good position to expand now more and more and go for, as you say, these new technologically advanced aircraft?
China is a huge market for Airbus, and China will continue to be a huge market for Airbus. I think that's and the two final assembly lines are a response to customer proximity requests. Customers want to be close. Customers want to know where they can get their aircraft. That's what they have there.
And for Gardner Aerospace, what does that mean? That more and more of your production and manufacturing is also made outside the UK, but possibly outside Europe?
We have a global structure, a global product offering, and we deliver and produce where the customer wants us to be. Our industrial footprint is probably 60% still in Europe, 40% in China and in India. Obviously growth is there where there is growth in aircraft deliveries, so we expect to grow more. There's still growth in Europe, but we expect that the incremental growth is going to be in India and in China.
So in a way, your company and many other companies like you are in a position where you could be affected rather badly with international tariffs. And if this tax on goods is introduced, or even the threat of it, it must have a negative impact.
We are impacted. We don't understand it in full yet. It has to go away, to make it very simple. It is not good for the industry. It is not good for consumers. This is a supply chain that has been developed over the last 25, 30 years. It is very interconnected. To give you a very simple example, we are machining parts in China based on raw material that comes from the US, and the customer is in the UK. This has been developed over many, many years. If you add here whatever the number is, 25, 145, whatever it is, it breaks the chain. This is destructive. It breaks the chain, and it cannot, our margins don't allow for that. No one's margin allow for that. And at the end, it's the consumer that pays.
So what is it then? A political misunderstanding of how the economics works for so many global companies, or is it a vain hope of attracting more business into the United States?
We don't know. We don't know, and we don't understand. But what we see is the paradigm that we have here is we cannot plan, because it changes every day. There's so much uncertainty in that, and uncertainty kills business. You cannot make rational decisions if every day the plan changes, and that's the main problem. We would adapt if needed. Today we are just thinking probably the plan changes tomorrow and we don't need to adapt, which is a situation of nothing moves on, and that's not good for growth.
They always say, don't they, that uncertainty for any business is dreadful.
It is, and it's not good for us.
Okay, so let's talk about something we do know that will happen, which is sustainability and the need technologically and environmentally for aviation to up its game and to do basically what engineering allows it to do, but also what the consumers want.
I think consumer want to travel. And when we look at it, there is so much growth, and there is so much growth expected that the growth will outperform even the reductions that we see. That's not good. So we need to do more. We need to do more because at the end it is about this, our permit to operate as an industry is in danger if we don't get on a path towards sustainability. We need to get to this carbon-free or emission-neutral aviation by 2050, because there's the risk that consumers will just stop it. It started a little bit, or we could observe that during COVID when there were blaming of, it's not the travel and the aircraft that is the problem, the emissions are the problem. Being an engineer, we need to get the emissions out, not the travel. Consumer wants to travel, we need to fix that.
Okay, so how do you fix it? Is it the sustainable aviation fuel, or is it the technology of these airplanes?
I think it's a mix of all. The first step is clearly, or the first contributor to reducing emissions are less emission aircraft. An aircraft that you buy today exhausts far less emissions than an aircraft 15 years ago. So bringing new aircraft to the market helps. Secondly, technology is not anything that helps in reducing emissions. Winglets, more efficient engines, all that reduces emission. And then SAF, sustainable aviation fuel, is the answer to that. A complete emission-free aircraft is not expected in the next 10 to 15 years.
So what you're saying is that airline companies, governments, companies should spend more and buy newer planes?
Yes.
Which is good for your business, isn't it?
Which is good for my business, but it's also what is good for them, because they like to travel. It is a personal need to travel.
But there is a serious point there. Is it affordable? Because as you're probably well aware, there's already this kickback against net zero. Even in the UK and many other Western countries, they claim it's going to be too expensive for the economy.
I understand that, but and I accept it. But I think that's the call for action for engineers, being yourself one, to find a solution that is affordable. And innovation is an invention that makes money. That's what we need to do. We need to innovate in a way to make it a business case, and then it will work.
Again, geopolitically, things are so unstable, changing so much now in Eastern Europe, Middle East, and so on. It does have an impact on society. It has an impact on how people live. Does that make you feel more nervous and fearful of the future, or do you think that actually aviation is in a good place, civil aviation is in a good place?
First of all, I'm an optimist by nature. So and a good example here is in the second quarter of 2020, when the pandemic hit, and everybody was saying, there is no aircraft flying, all stopped. When you look on the stats, in the second quarter of 2020, there were more aircraft flying than in 1993 when I was getting out of school. This is this growth that is behind. I mean, in 1993, we found it completely normal to see this aircraft. there will be ups and downs, and aviation is depending on GDP. Aviation is depending on people having trust in flying. But there was this immense growth over the last 30 years, and this is going to continue, probably a little bit.
And you think that your growth, you think, is definitely in Asia more than anywhere else?
Our growth is global. Our growth is global, but where we produce and where we deliver this growth is probably more out of Asia than somewhere else.
Thank you very much indeed.
It was a pleasure. Thanks for having me.